Hello, my dear friends. Tonight, you are not in your room anymore. The quiet hum of electricity is gone. No distant traffic. No soft glow from a screen. No insulated walls holding steady warmth. Instead, you wake in darkness. A real darkness. The kind the modern world rarely allows to exist. The year is somewhere around 1545, during the reign of Henry VIII, and you are lying on a straw mattress inside a timber-framed house in a small English town. The first thing you notice is the cold. Not a sharp outdoor cold, but a slow creeping cold that seems to live inside the walls themselves. Tudor houses do not trap heat well. The wooden beams shrink and expand with weather, and thin plaster between them blocks wind only imperfectly. During the night, the hearth fire has died down, and now the room feels almost as cold as the outside air. You try to sit up and immediately feel the bed shift beneath you. The mattress is not soft, it is a sack filled with straw and rough fiber. Every movement produces a dry rustling sound, and the straw presses unevenly against your back. Blankets made of heavy wool cover you, but they are coarse and slightly damp from the night air. Comfort here is not expected. Warmth is. Before you even understand where you are, the day has already begun around you. Tudor people wake early, not by alarm, but by light. A faint gray glow is entering through the shuttered window. Glass exists, but it is expensive, and many homes use oiled cloth or wooden shutters instead. Morning arrives slowly and quietly. From below you hear movement. Someone is already awake, stirring the embers in the hearth. The crackle of rekindled fire reaches upstairs along with the smell of smoke. Smoke is everywhere in Tudor England. Even indoors, it never fully leaves. Chimneys exist, but they are inefficient. The air inside most houses carries a constant haze, and over time, the ceiling beams above you have turned almost black. You stand and your bare feet meet the wooden floor. It is colder than expected. Shoes are not worn inside beds, but they are put on quickly after rising because the house is never warm. Washing is not your first task. Dressing is. Clothing is protection against indoor temperature. You reach for garments laid beside the bed, a linen shirt, wool stockings, and a heavy outer layer. Tudor clothing is layered because heating is unreliable. People do not warm houses, they warm themselves. Even indoors, coats and caps are common. As you step into the main room, you begin to understand how different daily life is. The fire sits in a large hearth along the wall, already being fed with wood. But the warmth spreads only a few feet. Everyone naturally stands close to it. The rest of the room remains cool. This single fire cooks food, provides light, dries clothes, and heats the home at the same time. Breakfast is not cereal or bread with butter. Instead, it is pottage, a thick stew that never fully stops cooking. A large iron pot hangs over the hearth, and ingredients are added continuously. Yesterday's cabbage, oats, onions, and perhaps a little salted meat are inside. Each day's meal blends into the next. The pot may remain in use for weeks. You are handed a wooden spoon and a small bowl. There are no forks for common people yet. The food is hot but simple, and you quickly realize something important. Tudor meals are designed for energy, not pleasure. Most people work physically from sunrise until sunset, and food exists to keep bodies moving. After eating, you instinctively look for a bathroom. You will not find one. Tudor homes do not contain indoor plumbing. Instead, waste is collected in a chamber pot, a ceramic or wooden container kept in the corner, often under the bed at night. In the morning, it must be emptied outside, usually into a cesspit or directly into the street in poorer areas. You step outdoors and the air feels fresher than inside. But now you notice the smell of the town itself. Animal dung, wood smoke, damp earth, and human waste mixed together. Streets are not paved in many towns, and rain turns them into mud. Footpaths are shared with animals. Pigs, chickens, and dogs move freely. People around you are already working. Tudor society runs on daylight. There is no artificial lighting strong enough to extend activity far into the night, so every usable hour of sun matters. Shops open early, markets begin quickly, and labor starts almost immediately after dawn. You soon learn that survival here depends on routine and obedience. Tudor England is highly ordered. Church bells regulate time, religion shapes daily behavior, and law is strict. Even small crimes, theft of food, disrespect, or breaking trade rules, can bring severe punishment. Public punishments are common because authorities believe fear maintains order. And as the sun slowly rises over the town, you begin to understand the true challenge of lasting a day here. It is not one dramatic hardship. It is the accumulation of many small difficulties. Cold rooms, heavy clothing, simple food, constant smoke, hard labor, and strict rules shaping every hour of life. You have only just woken, and already you are tired. The morning light grows stronger, but it does not make the world easier. In Tudor England, daylight simply reveals how much work waits to be done. You do not ease into the day with quiet coffee or soft music. The moment the sun clears the rooftops, activity becomes urgent. Time is measured not in minutes but in productivity. If you waste daylight, you waste survival. If you are a laborer, your hands are already needed. Fields surround most Tudor towns, and farming shapes the rhythm of life. Even those who live within town walls often depend on land outside them. Wheat, barley, and rye must be tended carefully, and harvest season is relentless. During busy months, people work from sunrise until sunset, with only brief pauses for food. The body is not asked whether it is tired. It is expected to endure. You quickly feel how physical Tudor life truly is. There are no machines to lighten tasks. Plowing fields means guiding animals and pushing heavy wooden tools through stubborn soil. Carrying water means lifting buckets from wells and hauling them by hand. Even grinding grain requires strength and repetition. Modern life has quietly removed thousands of small physical efforts from your day. Here, every action demands muscle. Inside towns, tradesmen begin their routines just as early. Blacksmiths hammer iron while sparks fly against dim workshop walls. The sound echoes through narrow streets. Bakers heat large stone ovens long before customers arrive. The smell of bread drifts through the air, mixing with smoke and damp wood. Tailors bend over cloth by window light, stitching by hand with careful precision. Nothing moves quickly, yet nothing pauses. But work is not your only challenge. Tudor England is deeply structured by hierarchy. Society is layered clearly. Nobility, gentry, merchants, artisans, and laborers all know their place. Clothing laws even regulate what you may wear depending on status. These are called sumptuary laws, and they exist to prevent lower classes from dressing above their rank. Imagine living in a world where your clothing is legally restricted based on your birth. Religion also governs the rhythm of the day. Church bells ring regularly, calling people to prayer and marking time. Attendance is not optional in the way it might be today. Faith is public and visible. After Henry VIII separated from Rome, religious identity became politically sensitive. Expressions of belief could align you with the crown, or against it. Words spoken carelessly about religion could bring suspicion. In a society where loyalty and faith intertwine, silence is often safer than opinion. By midday, fatigue settles into your bones. Meals are simple and repetitive. Bread is the foundation of nearly every diet. For poorer households, dark rye bread replaces white wheat loaves enjoyed by wealthier families. Ale is safer to drink than water in many cases because brewing kills harmful elements. Even children drink weak ale daily. Clean water sources are not guaranteed, and wells can become contaminated. Hygiene is another quiet struggle. Bathing as we understand it is rare. Large tubs exist in wealthier homes, but for most people, washing means splashing water on the face and hands. Clothing absorbs sweat and smoke and is not washed frequently because drying heavy wool is difficult in damp English weather. Lice and fleas are common companions. You feel them occasionally, small irritations accepted as normal. As afternoon progresses, the sun begins its slow descent, and with it comes a different pressure. Tudor towns are not brightly lit after dark. Once evening arrives, activity shrinks inward. Crime becomes a greater fear in darkness, because there is little illumination. Town watchmen patrol streets with lanterns, but their reach is limited. If trouble arises, help is not guaranteed to arrive quickly. Punishments in Tudor England are public and visible. Stocks and pillories stand in market squares. These wooden frames hold offenders in place while townspeople mock or throw refuse. The intention is humiliation as much as correction. More serious crimes can bring whipping or even execution. Justice is designed to be seen. The sight of punishment reminds everyone else of consequences. You begin to understand that surviving here is not only about enduring cold or labor. It is about adapting to constant observation. Community life is tight. Privacy barely exists. Your neighbors know your habits, your church attendance, your behavior. Reputation matters deeply because social networks determine survival. If illness strikes or work becomes scarce, you depend on goodwill. Alienation can be dangerous. As evening approaches, the sky dims once more. Fires are stoked again. Supper resembles breakfast. More pottage, more bread. Conversation is quiet, often centered on practical concerns. Weather forecasts matter greatly because storms can ruin crops and bring hunger. A failed harvest can mean rising prices, and rising prices can mean starvation for those living on the edge. Inside your body, exhaustion deepens. Tudor life leaves little room for rest that is not earned by complete physical depletion. When you finally lie back on the straw mattress again, smoke clings to your hair and clothing. Your muscles ache from unfamiliar labor. The room cools quickly as the fire dies low. And yet tomorrow will not ease, it will repeat. There are no weekends, no structured vacations. Festivals exist, yes, and holy days provide moments of celebration. But daily existence remains physically demanding and socially restrictive. Survival here is not dramatic or cinematic. It is steady endurance shaped by hierarchy, labor, limited comfort, and ever-present expectation. If you truly imagine yourself here, without modern heating, without medicine, without privacy, without legal equality, you begin to see why lasting even a single day would feel overwhelming. Not because Tudor people were weak, but because they were conditioned from birth to endure conditions that modern bodies and minds no longer recognize as normal. And as the final glow of firelight fades against the timber walls, and the cold quietly creeps back into the room, you realize that surviving 24 hours in Tudor England is less about bravery and more about resilience shaped by a lifetime of adaptation that you simply do not possess. Sometime during the night you wake again, not because of noise but because of cold. The fire that seemed warm before sleep has burned low, and the house has slowly returned to the temperature of the outside air. Tudor houses do not hold heat after flames fade. The walls are thin, and small gaps around shutters allow wind to pass through almost invisibly. You pull the wool blanket tighter around yourself, yet your breath is faintly visible in the darkness. Sleep in Tudor England is not a single long rest as we know it. Many people wake naturally in the middle of the night. Historians sometimes call this the first sleep and second sleep. After several hours, it is normal to stir, shift, or even rise briefly. Some people pray quietly, adjust the fire, or check animals before lying down again. Night is not empty time. It is simply slower time. Eventually, the gray light of dawn begins returning, and the house wakes once more. There is no snooze button, no choice to delay the morning. Daylight itself demands action. The first task again is the fire. Without rekindling the hearth, the house remains cold and food cannot be prepared. You watch someone kneel carefully, blowing on embers and adding small pieces of wood until flame returns. This single daily ritual determines comfort, cooking, and light for the entire household. Soon you are handed a task as well. In Tudor life, everyone works. Even children contribute by gathering kindling, fetching water, or helping with animals. Idleness is not simply discouraged, it is suspicious. A person without visible work risks being labeled a vagabond. Tudor laws against vagrancy are strict, and wandering without employment can lead to whipping or forced labor. Society expects productivity from every able body. You carry a bucket toward the town well and quickly realize how essential water truly is. Every household needs it constantly, for cooking, brewing, washing, and animals. The well is a social place where neighbors gather, exchange news, and quietly observe one another. Conversations are polite but careful. Words travel quickly in a small community, and reputation matters. Returning with the heavy bucket, your arms already ache. In modern life, water flows with a turn of a handle. Here, every cup requires lifting, carrying, and balancing. You understand why people move efficiently. Wasted effort means wasted strength, and strength must last all day. As the morning continues, you notice another difference. Noise. Tudor towns are louder than expected, but in a different way. Not engines, but human industry. Hammering metal, sawing wood, animals calling, traders shouting prices in the market square. The sound of life fills the air because most work happens outdoors or in open workshops. The market itself reveals the fragile nature of food supply. Prices change quickly depending on harvests. A poor crop means higher costs, and higher costs mean hunger for many families. Bread riots occasionally occur when grain becomes scarce. People do not panic from greed but from necessity. A missed meal here is serious. You also begin to notice the authority of law more clearly. Officials patrol markets checking weights and measures. Bakers can be punished for selling loaves underweight. Public order is not gentle. Punishments are meant to discourage disobedience openly. Stocks placed in the center of town ensure everyone witnesses consequences. Children grow up seeing justice displayed physically, not abstractly. Afternoon labor resumes without pause. Fields must be tended, goods produced, animals fed. Weather controls productivity. Rain slows work but does not stop responsibility. Mud clings to boots and clothing, and drying garments near the fire later becomes necessary. You feel fatigue deepen not only in muscles but in attention. Every task requires focus because mistakes cost effort. As evening slowly approaches again, shadows lengthen across narrow streets. Shops close early because artificial light is weak and expensive. People return indoors before full darkness. Doors are secured, shutters closed, and fires prepared. Safety depends on caution. Night travel is avoided unless necessary. Supper resembles previous meals. Simple, filling, repetitive. The body requires fuel more than variety. Conversation often centers on practical matters: weather, work, church events, and local news. Larger politics of the kingdom rarely enter daily discussion unless they affect taxes, religion, or conscription. After eating, the house dims again as candles burn low. You feel exhaustion settle deeply now. The day has not contained dramatic danger, yet it has demanded continuous effort. No task alone overwhelmed you, but together they have drained your strength. And as you lie again on the straw mattress, listening to the faint crackle of the dying fire and distant sounds of the town settling into darkness, you finally understand the truth of Tudor survival. The challenge was never a single hardship. It was the unbroken chain of labor, obligation, cold, watchful community, and limited comfort repeating every day without pause, a way of living shaped not by convenience, but by necessity, and sustained only by people who had known nothing else from the moment they were born. Morning returns again, and by now you no longer need anyone to wake you. The sounds of the town do it first. A rooster calling somewhere beyond the houses, a cart rolling across uneven ground, and the low murmur of voices already beginning their day. Tudor life does not allow slow starts. The day begins with movement whether you feel ready or not. As you step outside, you notice the street more carefully than before. It is not truly a street as you would imagine today. It is a shared pathway of packed earth, marked by footprints, wagon wheels, and animal tracks layered over one another. Rainwater gathers in shallow ruts, and stepping around them requires constant attention. People walk carefully, not from fear of traffic, but from fear of mud. A single misstep can soak clothing that may take days to dry. Animals move freely through the town. Chickens wander between homes. Dogs rest near doorways, and occasionally a pig passes along the lane rooting at the ground. Animals are not separate from daily life. They are part of survival. They provide food, trade goods, and labor. Their presence also explains much of the smell you have grown accustomed to, a mixture of smoke, damp soil, and livestock that never fully disappears. Today you begin to notice clothing more closely. Tudor dress is practical but also social language. Wealthier people wear richer fabrics and brighter dyes. Poorer individuals wear simpler wool and natural tones. This difference is not merely fashion, it is visible hierarchy. From a distance, one can estimate a person's status before a word is spoken. Society functions smoothly when everyone knows their place. and appearance helps maintain that order. As you pass through the market area, activity grows louder. Traders call out goods, vegetables, bread, cloth, small metal tools. Coins change hands slowly because most people possess very little. Bargaining is common, but polite. Buyers and sellers depend on long-term relationships. Dishonesty harms reputation, and reputation can affect survival. In a world without formal credit systems, trust itself becomes currency. You pause near a group gathered around a posted notice. Reading is not universal, so one person reads aloud while others listen. Royal proclamations, tax announcements, or religious instructions may appear here. The Crown's authority reaches even small towns through such messages. People listen carefully because ignorance is not a defense against law. Obedience to authority is expected, and misunderstanding can bring punishment. Religion continues shaping daily rhythm. Church is not only a place of worship but also a center of community identity. Attendance is monitored. Absence invites questions. After England's religious changes under Henry VIII, public loyalty matters. Outward conformity protects individuals even if private beliefs differ. You begin to understand how carefully Tudor people speak about sensitive topics. By midday, hunger returns quickly. Physical work burns energy fast, and meals are frequent though simple. Bread again appears, accompanied by cheese or onions when available. Fresh fruit is rare except in season. Sugar is a luxury few taste regularly. Sweetness is uncommon enough to feel memorable. You notice another aspect of Tudor life: medicine. A man nearby coughs persistently, yet treatment is limited. Remedies rely on herbs, prayers, and traditional knowledge passed down through generations. Physicians exist but are expensive and often far away. Illness is endured rather than quickly cured. Even minor injuries are serious risks because infection is poorly understood. As afternoon passes, the sky darkens slightly with gathering clouds. Weather commands attention here. A sudden storm can damage crops or delay work critical for winter survival. People watch the sky carefully, reading signs from wind and cloud patterns. Forecasting is experience-based rather than scientific, but often surprisingly accurate. Later, a small disturbance occurs near the market cross. A man accused of cheating in trade is placed briefly in the stocks. The punishment is not long, but it is public. Passers-by pause, some laughing, others simply observing. The goal is correction through embarrassment. You realize punishment here is as much social as legal. The community itself participates in enforcing behavior. Evening approaches again. The town gradually quiets as traders pack goods and doors close. Fires are prepared inside homes once more. The repetition becomes clear. Every day follows similar patterns because stability ensures survival. Predictability is comfort in a world filled with uncertainty from disease, weather, and harvest. Inside, the hearth glows again. Supper is eaten in the same place as breakfast. Conversation is calm, often reflecting on work completed and tasks awaiting tomorrow. There is little idle discussion because energy is limited and rest valuable. As darkness deepens and the candle flame flickers against darkened beams above, you feel the weight of the day fully settle. Tudor England has not threatened you directly, yet it has demanded constant attention, effort, and adaptation. Each hour required awareness of law, status, weather, and labor. The difficulty lies not in dramatic hardship, but in the relentless normalcy of it all. A life where comfort is rare, routine is survival, and endurance is expected from everyone who wakes beneath the smoke-darkened rafters of a Tudor home. By now you begin to understand that Tudor England is not simply a different version of your world. It is a different rhythm entirely. The hours do not stretch comfortably. They press forward with steady expectation. There is no concept of personal time separated from duty. The self belongs first to household, then to community, and finally to crown and church. Individual comfort ranks low in this order. As another morning rises, you feel the stiffness in your body more sharply. Sleep on straw does not restore muscles fully. The mattress shifts unevenly beneath you, and wool blankets trap smoke as much as warmth. Your throat feels dry from breathing air thick with soot. Even indoors, the environment is never fully clean. Tudor homes, though carefully maintained, exist in constant contact with fire, animals, and dampness. Today you accompany someone to the fields beyond the town. Walking through open countryside reveals how closely survival depends on land. Fields are divided carefully, often shared among villagers in open strip systems. Each family tends specific sections, but cooperation remains essential. Harvest requires many hands. A single family cannot manage alone. The tools in use are simple and heavy. Wooden plows reinforced with iron cut through soil slowly. Reaping grain means bending repeatedly with a sickle, gathering handful after handful. Your back begins to ache quickly. Tudor labor builds strength over years, not days. Modern bodies, accustomed to chairs and controlled environments, would struggle to keep pace for long. You also notice the vulnerability built into agriculture. Crops rely entirely on weather patterns. Too much rain spoils fields. Too little dries them. There is no modern irrigation system to compensate. Storage of grain becomes crucial. Barns hold winter reserves carefully protected from moisture and pests. A failed harvest can mean hunger not just for weeks, but for months. As the sun climbs higher, work pauses briefly for food brought from home. Coarse bread and perhaps a wedge of cheese. Meals outdoors are quick and functional. There is little leisure attached to eating. The goal is to refuel and continue. During a moment of rest, conversation turns toward recent news from London. Rumors travel slowly but steadily. Royal marriages, political shifts, and religious changes ripple outward into even small villages. Tudor England is politically intense. Henry VIII's decisions regarding marriage and religion altered the lives of common people in subtle but lasting ways. Monasteries have been dissolved, their lands redistributed. Some communities benefited, others lost traditional support structures. You begin to see how distant power shapes daily life. Taxes fund royal projects and military campaigns. Laws define acceptable worship. Allegiance is not abstract. It affects land ownership, employment, and safety. To survive in Tudor England, one must remain aware of political currents even from afar. Returning toward town in late afternoon, you pass a manor house standing more prominently than surrounding cottages. The contrast is striking. Larger windows, more solid construction, better kept grounds. The hierarchy of Tudor society becomes visible in architecture itself. Wealth offers insulation not only from cold but from hardship. Yet even noble households lack many modern comforts. Comfort here is relative, not absolute. Back within town walls, a craftsman invites you briefly into his workshop. The interior is cluttered but purposeful. Tools hang in organized rows, and half-finished goods rest on benches. Production is manual and patient. Skill matters greatly. Apprentices train for years under masters, learning technique through repetition rather than formal schooling. Guild systems regulate trades, ensuring quality and controlling competition. Evening approaches once more. You begin to recognize how daylight defines emotional experience. As shadows lengthen, conversation softens. There is a shared awareness that darkness brings vulnerability. Candles are used sparingly because wax is expensive. Most light comes from the hearth. Faces glow orange in flickering firelight, and the rest of the room fades into shadow. Before bed, you notice prayers being spoken quietly. Faith provides reassurance against uncertainty. Tudor belief is not casual. It is woven deeply into understanding of illness, harvest, fortune, and misfortune. In a world without scientific explanation for many events, divine interpretation offers structure. Lying down again on the straw mattress, you reflect on the accumulation of effort across these hours. Tudor life does not overwhelm through spectacle. It wears down gradually through repetition, physical strain, strict hierarchy, limited sanitation, and constant responsibility. There is little room for escape, distraction, or personal retreat. Even moments of rest are shaped by communal expectation and environmental limitation, and as the embers in the hearth glow faintly and the cold begins its quiet return through timber walls, you understand that surviving here would require more than courage. It would demand a lifetime of adaptation to discomfort, discipline to accept rigid order, and endurance shaped by conditions that modern existence has long since softened, leaving you unprepared for the steady, unrelenting reality of a single full day in Tudor England. As another day begins to unfold, you start noticing something deeper than cold or labor. Life here is not only physically demanding, it is socially demanding. Every action you take is visible to someone else. Tudor towns are small, tightly connected places, and anonymity does not exist. From the moment you step outside your door, you are part of a watched community. People greet one another, but not casually. Greetings confirm belonging. If you pass someone without acknowledgement, it is remembered. If you speak too freely, it is also remembered. Reputation travels faster than any written message. A careless word spoken in the morning might be known across the market before evening. You walk again through the town center and begin to understand how the church stands at the heart of everything. Its tower rises above every roof, visible from fields and roads alike. The building is not simply religious space. It is a place of announcements, gatherings, and records. Births, marriages, and deaths are noted here. A person's life becomes part of official memory through church records. Attendance is expected. Absence can invite suspicion, especially during this period of religious change. England is shifting between traditions, and loyalty matters. Ordinary villagers may not fully understand theological disputes between Catholic and Protestant practices, yet they feel the consequences. Services change language, rituals change, and people adapt carefully to avoid appearing disobedient. Inside the church, the atmosphere is quiet but not private. Worship is communal and visible. People stand or kneel in shared awareness. You realize religion here is not personal reflection alone. It is public identity. To be seen participating confirms reliability within society. Leaving the churchyard, you notice another structure nearby. The parish stocks again standing empty in daylight. Even unused, they serve purpose. They remind everyone that order is constantly enforced. Tudor law values deterrence. Punishment must be seen to be effective. Authority is not hidden behind distant courts, it lives in the center of daily life. As the day continues, you observe education in a different form. Children do not spend long hours in formal schooling unless from wealthier families. Instead, learning happens through apprenticeship and imitation. A young boy assists a carpenter, copying movements again and again. A girl helps prepare food and manage household tasks, memorizing processes rather than studying instructions. Knowledge passes hand to hand, eye to eye. You also become aware of seasonal awareness shaping thought. Tudor people think in terms of winter survival even during summer warmth. Firewood is stacked carefully months before cold returns. Salted meats are prepared and stored. Herbs are dried and hung from rafters. Every present action serves a future need. Life here always looks ahead because preparation determines survival. At midday, a small gathering forms near the town official. Taxes are being collected, coins are counted carefully. Payment is not optional. The Crown's authority extends even here, and officials represent it locally. For many households, taxes mean sacrifice. A portion of hard-earned resources leaves immediately. There is no distant abstraction about government. Its presence is direct and tangible. You notice how carefully people behave around authority figures. Posture straightens, speech becomes formal, and disagreement is restrained. The law in Tudor England is powerful and not easily challenged. Appeals exist, but access to them is limited for common people. Stability depends on acceptance rather than argument. Later in the afternoon, weather shifts unexpectedly. Wind rises and clouds gather quickly across the sky. Activity changes instantly. Laundry hanging outside is rushed indoors. Animals are secured. Doors are fastened. The community responds almost as a single organism, each person understanding what must be done without instruction. Experience teaches urgency. Rain begins, not gentle but steady. Mud forms quickly in streets and movement slows. Indoors, people gather again around the hearth. The fire grows in importance, drying clothing and lifting spirits. Conversation increases slightly. Shared difficulty brings shared presence. You sit listening to ordinary talk, crop hopes, minor disputes settled, plans for upcoming church days. No one discusses abstract philosophy. Survival occupies attention. Yet within these conversations exists quiet resilience. People endure not through dramatic strength but through cooperation and routine. As evening settles and the storm continues tapping against shutters, the candlelight flickers across smoke-dark beams above. The day has offered no single moment of catastrophe, yet its weight is undeniable. Every hour demanded attention to weather, authority, community expectation, and physical necessity. The challenge of Tudor England lies in constancy, a world where you are never entirely alone, never entirely comfortable, and never entirely free from obligation, living within a network of rules and routines that shape existence from waking breath to sleeping breath, beneath the steady echo of rain on a Tudor roof. By now, something subtle begins to settle into your mind. A realization that Tudor England does not exhaust you only through labor or cold, but through limitation. Your choices are fewer. Your movements are narrower. Your identity is shaped long before you understand it. You wake again before sunrise, and this time the air feels even heavier. The rain from the night has left the town damp. The walls carry moisture. The smell of wet wood and smoke mixes together in a way that lingers in your lungs. Fires must be restarted carefully because damp wood does not burn easily. Extra effort is required even for warmth. You step outside and see puddles forming in the road. Movement through town is slower today. Mud clings thickly to boots, and every step carries weight. There are no paved sidewalks separating clean from dirty. Everything shares the same ground: people, animals, carts, waste. You notice how clothing absorbs this environment. Wool grows heavy when wet. Drying it requires proximity to heat, but space near the hearth is limited. Every household member competes quietly for warmth. Comfort becomes negotiation. As the morning continues, you observe something else: silence around certain topics. Tudor England is politically charged. Words spoken unwisely can travel beyond friendly ears. Under Henry VIII, loyalty to the monarch is not merely respectful, it is mandatory. Questioning royal authority, especially regarding religion, is dangerous. The king's decisions have reshaped monasteries and church authority across the land. Lands once belonging to religious houses are redistributed. Some towns benefit, others feel loss. Yet open discussion remains cautious. People learn early that survival includes managing speech. You begin to understand how law reaches even into family life. Marriage is not entirely private. It is regulated by church and social expectation. Social mobility is rare. Most people remain within the class they are born into. Dreams of sudden advancement are unrealistic unless extraordinary circumstance intervenes. In the market again, you notice tension between guild members and outsiders. Trade is protected carefully. Selling goods without proper apprenticeship or permission risks penalty. Guild systems preserve quality, but also restrict opportunity. A newcomer cannot simply start working, they must earn position over years. Midday arrives with limited rest. Meals are eaten quickly. You begin to feel the psychological strain of repetition. Every day resembles the last. Variety is rare. Entertainment exists in festivals, fairs, and occasional traveling performers, but daily life is functional. Illness remains a constant quiet threat. A neighbor coughs heavily. There is no certainty whether it is minor or serious. Medical understanding remains tied to humors and imbalance. If fever rises, herbal mixtures may be tried. If sickness worsens, prayers increase. Survival sometimes depends on strength alone. You also notice how death is not hidden from view. Churchyards are visible from homes. Funerals pass through streets openly. Life expectancy is shorter than modern standards, especially for children. This does not create constant panic, but it shapes awareness. People grow familiar with loss early. As afternoon light fades again, you feel a growing appreciation for Tudor resilience. They endure not because life is gentle, but because adaptation begins at birth. A child raised in this world does not compare it to electric warmth or running water. This is normality. And this is where the true reason you would not last becomes clear. It is not the cold alone. It is not the labor alone. It is not the law alone. It is the complete system. Physical hardship, social structure, limited mobility, strict obedience, environmental discomfort, and constant communal observation, all woven together seamlessly. By evening, as you return once more to the hearth and watch flames flicker against smoke-dark beams, you feel something unfamiliar: the weight of restriction. Tudor life allows little escape from expectation. You cannot scroll away from boredom. You cannot isolate from community. You cannot opt out of hierarchy. And as darkness folds itself over the town again, settling quietly across timber roofs and muddy streets, you lie down knowing that tomorrow will mirror today with near precision. A steady continuation of effort, discipline, and endurance, shaped by a world where survival depends not on comfort, but on conformity and resilience within the unyielding structure of Tudor England. The next morning arrives under a pale sky, and you realize how completely life here depends on natural light. Before sunrise, the world is nearly unusable. There are no lamps bright enough to turn night into day, and candles are too precious to waste. Work waits for daylight, and daylight alone decides when life can properly begin. When the sun appears, doors open almost at once, as though the entire town has been waiting for permission to move. You step outside and notice the cold air sitting low over the ground. Smoke rises from many chimneys at once, drifting slowly between houses. Every home must maintain its fire, because the hearth is not only for warmth, but also for cooking, light, and even preservation of certain foods. Without it, daily life simply stops. The first hours of the day revolve around keeping that flame alive, and the skill of tending fire is valued more than comfort. Today you follow a household member toward the baker's oven. Bread cannot always be baked privately because ovens large enough to cook evenly are rare and expensive. In many towns, people bring prepared dough to a communal oven. You see several families waiting, holding wooden boards with loaves resting on top. Conversation is soft but constant. News travels here as naturally as heat from the oven. Who fell ill? Whose cow stopped giving milk? Which official is visiting soon? Information moves mouth to mouth without written record. While waiting, you notice how carefully people watch behavior. A person who cuts ahead in line, speaks rudely, or ignores customary manners risks damaging reputation. There is no anonymous complaint system. There is memory. A remembered offense can follow someone for years. Social harmony is survival. Being trusted means receiving help when difficulty arrives. After bread is baked, you carry it home. The loaf is dense and heavy, enough to feed several people. Bread forms the foundation of nearly every meal, and its quality matters deeply. If grain harvests fail, bread becomes scarce, and fear spreads quickly. Hunger is never far from thought in Tudor society. Even in stable years, people remain aware that security is temporary. Later in the morning, you accompany someone to gather firewood. Fuel must be collected regularly, especially in colder seasons. You walk beyond the town edge into wooded land, where fallen branches are carefully chosen. Cutting living trees without permission can bring punishment because woodland resources are regulated. The Crown and local landowners protect timber supplies closely. Even gathering wood requires awareness of law. Carrying the bundle back, you feel its weight press into your arms. Every resource demands physical effort: food, water, warmth. Nothing appears instantly. Modern life quietly removed these constant exertions, but here they define the day. You begin to realize that fatigue is normal, not exceptional. Not At midday, church bells ring again, marking time. People pause briefly, some crossing themselves, others simply acknowledging the moment. Timekeeping devices are rare. Bells serve as the community's clock, structuring work and rest across the settlement. The sound travels far, linking field workers and townsfolk into a shared rhythm. Afternoon work resumes indoors for some. You watch clothing being repaired rather than replaced. Fabric is valuable and garments are maintained carefully. Tiers are stitched, patches added, seams reinforced. Nothing is thrown away easily because replacing items cost too much. Ownership here means preservation. A small disagreement breaks out nearby between two neighbors over property boundaries. The argument is controlled, but serious. Land and access determine livelihood. The matter is not taken lightly, and it will likely be brought before a local authority for judgment. Conflict resolution relies on community decision rather than distant bureaucracy. As daylight begins to weaken, preparation for night starts early. Animals are secured, tools stored, and shutters fastened. Darkness in Tudor England is not gentle twilight. It is deep and immediate. Without moonlight, the town becomes almost completely black beyond the reach of hearth glow. People prefer to be indoors before this moment arrives. Inside, supper is eaten again by firelight. The warmth feels comforting now, not luxurious but necessary. Shadows flicker across faces, and conversation grows softer as energy fades. The repetition of meals, tasks, and routine begins to feel inevitable rather than unusual. When you lie down again, the house grows quiet except for faint creaks in the timber as it cools. You think about how many small skills you needed just to pass this single day. Tending fire, carrying water, preserving food, respecting law, maintaining reputation, watching weather. None alone seemed overwhelming. Yet together they formed a constant demand on body and mind. And as the last glow of embers fades and the darkness settles fully around the room, you understand more clearly that survival here is not measured by heroic moments, but by steady endurance. A life built from countless ordinary efforts repeated without relief, shaping people capable of living in Tudor England, while leaving a modern visitor quietly exhausted by the simple completion of one full day beneath its cold morning skies and firelit nights. The night passes slowly, and when morning returns you feel a heaviness not only in your body but in your mind. Tudor England demands attention every waking moment. There is almost no passive time. Even before you rise, you hear movement in the house. Someone is already awake, stirring embers back to flame because losing the morning fire makes the entire day harder. You sit up and notice how dim the interior still is. Windows are small, often covered with oiled cloth or leaded glass that softens light rather than letting it flood the room. Houses are built more for protection and heat than brightness. Shadows remain inside even during daylight hours. Vision adjusts constantly between glow and gloom. Today you follow a family member to care for animals kept close to the home. A cow or goat provides milk, chickens provide eggs, and each requires daily attention. Feeding, cleaning, and collecting take time and patience. Animals are valuable possessions, not companions. Their health directly affects whether a household eats well or poorly. When one grows sick, worry spreads quickly. You also notice the smell again, stronger here. Straw, manure, damp earth, and smoke blend into a scent that never fully leaves clothing or skin. Tudor people grow accustomed to it, but to you it feels constant. Clean air is rare inside towns because chimneys release smoke at low height and streets trap it between buildings. By mid-morning, you walk toward a nearby field path where travelers occasionally pass. Roads are rough and slow, and journeys take days or weeks rather than hours. News from distant regions travels with merchants and messengers. When a traveler arrives, people gather quietly to hear stories, not from curiosity alone, but because information matters. Rumors of plague, war, or crop failure influence decisions about trade and preparation. The conversation reminds you how uncertain safety is. Law exists, but enforcement depends on local authority and community cooperation. Outside towns, travelers face risk from theft or simple misfortune. Without maps, clear roads, or reliable lodging, movement itself becomes an undertaking requiring planning and courage. Returning to town, you witness a small lesson being given to a child who failed a task. The correction is firm, but not cruel. Children in Tudor England learn responsibility early. Survival does not allow long childhood dependence. By the time they grow older, they already understand chores, obedience, and household roles. At midday, you are again aware of the body's demands. Hunger comes quickly because the work never truly stops. The meal remains simple: bread, perhaps broth, maybe preserved meat if supplies allow. Variety is not expected. Consistency is valued because it means stability. After eating, you help carry water once more. The repeated trip to the well feels harder than yesterday. Fatigue accumulates. You realize that Tudor life is not one difficult day, but countless similar days layered together. Endurance here is built through habit formed from infancy. A modern visitor feels strain quickly because the body is untrained for this rhythm. In the afternoon, church bells ring again and you see people pause in quiet respect. Even those busy with work acknowledge the sound. Faith provides structure beyond survival. It offers explanation for hardship and reassurance during uncertainty. In a world without predictable medicine or weather control, belief fills gaps left by limited knowledge. Later, clouds part and sunlight briefly warms the street. For a moment, the town appears calmer. Children play near doorways, adults repair tools, and conversation carries lightly across the open space. You notice how community provides emotional support. Neighbors assist one another because isolation would be dangerous. Social ties replace systems of insurance or public welfare. Evening approaches once again. The cycle repeats. Animals secured, tools stored, shutters closed. You now anticipate these actions before they happen. Routine defines security. Predictability helps people cope with uncertainty in harvests, illness, and politics. Supper is eaten in familiar silence broken by quiet talk. No one complains openly about hardship, because hardship is ordinary. Instead, attention focuses on tomorrow's tasks and small hopes. Favorable weather, healthy livestock, steady trade. As night falls and you lie again on the straw bedding, the lesson of Tudor England becomes unmistakable. The challenge is not a single extreme danger. It is the continuous demand for effort, awareness, and acceptance of limits. You must obey authority, maintain reputation, manage resources, and endure physical discomfort without expectation of change. And as darkness settles deeply across the town, and only the faint glow of the hearth remains, you understand that surviving one day here required more resilience than expected. a resilience shaped over lifetimes, not learned overnight. Within a world where every ordinary moment quietly tested strength, patience, and adaptability beneath the unchanging rhythm of Tudor England. The following morning feels heavier than any before it. Your body has not yet adapted to the rhythm, and Tudor England offers no pause for recovery. Dawn arrives with a pale gray light filtering through the small window, and almost immediately you hear footsteps again on the wooden floorboards. Someone has already begun the day's labor. The routine does not wait for energy. It only waits for light. You rise slowly, and the cold floor beneath your feet shocks you awake more effectively than any alarm. There are no carpets in most homes, only bare boards worn smooth by years of movement. The hearth fire has been revived, but the warmth reaches only a small circle around it. Everywhere else the air remains chilled. You understand now why people dress quickly and layer clothing even indoors. Breakfast is prepared without delay. Bread softened in warm liquid and perhaps a little porridge. The meal is not meant to delight. It is meant to sustain. Tudor people eat with purpose. Food is fuel for work, and work must begin quickly to use the daylight fully. Today you accompany someone to the local workshop where tools are repaired. The craftsmen work steadily, shaping wood and metal with practiced movements. Nothing is disposable here. Broken items are mended repeatedly because replacing them costs too much time and resources. Objects have long lives, often passing through generations. You notice the concentration required for such work. Every cut, every hammer strike matters. A mistake wastes material that cannot easily be replaced. Patience becomes a survival skill. The craftsman does not hurry because rushing leads to loss, and loss leads to hardship. Outside, the town continues its constant motion. A cart rolls past carrying sacks of grain. The wheels creak loudly, wooden rims striking stones in the road. Transport is slow and effortful. Even short distances require animals or significant human strength. Trade exists, but it is limited by speed. Goods that arrive here have traveled far more slowly than modern imagination expects. Near the market cross, a town crier announces new regulations. People gather to listen carefully. Laws change often during Tudor rule, especially regarding religion and taxation. The king's authority extends into daily practice. What prayers may be spoken, what days must be observed, and how loyalty is demonstrated. The announcement is not debated publicly. It is accepted and remembered. You begin to sense another weight, uncertainty. Policies can shift with the monarch's decisions. Ordinary people cannot control these changes, yet they must adapt immediately. Security depends on obedience, and obedience depends on awareness. As the day warms slightly, work spreads outward again. Some people move to the fields, others remain in workshops, and others manage homes. You help carry supplies across town and realize how compact the settlement truly is. Distances are short, but effort makes them long. Even a brief journey demands physical exertion. By midday, clouds gather again, and a cool wind moves through the streets. Weather shapes mood instantly. A sudden chill reminds everyone of approaching seasons. Preparations for colder months never stop. Firewood stacks grow steadily higher because winter hardship is remembered from previous years. You watch a group repairing a roof using wooden shingles. Maintenance is constant. Without regular repair, rain damages homes quickly. Houses are living responsibilities, not static shelters. Owners must monitor them continuously. Later in the afternoon, you witness a local dispute brought before a minor official. Two individuals argue over borrowed equipment not returned on time. The resolution is practical rather than elaborate. Authority aims to restore order quickly, not prolong conflict. Community stability matters more than individual pride. As evening returns, a familiar weariness settles over the town. Shops close, animals are secured, and smoke once again rises from chimneys. The repetition is complete. Another day nearly mirrors the last, yet every repetition requires effort. There is no automatic ease. Supper is quiet tonight. Faces glow softly in firelight. The conversation centers on small concerns, weather patterns, a sick animal, an upcoming church day. Life here is measured by immediate needs rather than distant ambitions. You lie down once more, feeling the accumulated strain of these repeated hours. The body aches from unfamiliar labor, and the mind feels full from constant awareness. Tudor England has not shown you a dramatic catastrophe, yet it has revealed something harder. A world where survival depends on endless routine, careful obedience, and physical endurance every single day. And as the fire fades slowly and darkness closes around the timber walls, you understand why lasting here would be nearly impossible for a modern visitor. Not because the people were harsher, but because the environment demanded a lifetime of adaptation, shaping individuals capable of enduring conditions that challenge you deeply after only a single day within the unbroken rhythm of Tudor England. Before dawn has properly arrived, a sound wakes you, not loud but persistent. Church bells, slow and steady, carrying across the rooftops and narrow lanes. In Tudor England, the bell is more than a signal. It is a guide. It tells people when to pray, when to gather, when to mark death, and sometimes when danger approaches. Time itself feels less personal and more shared. The whole town rises almost together, not by clocks but by sound. You sit up again on the straw mattress, and now you notice how little separation exists inside the house. Families sleep close together. Privacy is extremely limited. Rooms serve multiple purposes: eating, working, and resting in the same space. Personal solitude, something modern people expect daily, is rare here. Being alone is unusual, not comforting. The morning air is colder than yesterday. A draft slips beneath the door, reminding you how little insulation protects the house. You instinctively move closer to the hearth where embers glow faintly. Before food is prepared, before conversation begins, someone must again coax the fire back to life. It takes patience. Small twigs first, gentle breath, then thicker wood. Fire is not a convenience. It is a responsibility renewed every single day. Soon work begins again. You are asked to accompany someone carrying grain to be milled. The walk to the mill takes time, following a worn path beside a narrow stream. Water mills are essential here. Grinding grain by hand would take endless effort, so the turning wheel powered by water becomes a vital piece of community survival. Several villagers wait in line, each holding sacks of grain grown through months of labor. Without milling, bread cannot exist, and without bread, the household struggles immediately. While waiting, conversation flows easily. People speak about weather patterns, small disputes, and rumors from nearby towns. You notice how carefully opinions are shared. Tudor society values order. Speaking too boldly about authority or church practices risks attention you do not want. Caution becomes habit. The miller works steadily, measuring portions carefully because fairness matters. A dishonest miller gains reputation quickly, and reputation in a small town can destroy livelihood. Trust is not theoretical here. It is necessary for daily exchange. When the flour is finally ready, the household treats it almost with relief. A basic ingredient secured for the coming days. Returning through town, you pass a group gathered near a notice board. A proclamation has arrived regarding church observance days. People listen closely as one literate man reads aloud. Reading is still uncommon among the poor, so spoken words carry authority. Laws reach ordinary people through voices, not paper. By midday, you notice exhaustion settling deeper into your body than before. The repeated lifting, walking, bending, and carrying accumulate. Tudor life does not exhaust suddenly. It drains steadily. Even standing for long periods becomes tiring because seating is limited. Chairs are not common furniture for everyone. Many people sit on benches or stools only when time allows. In the afternoon, you help repair a fence surrounding a small animal enclosure. Tools are simple: wooden posts, rope bindings, and hand tools requiring effort. Maintenance never ends. A broken barrier risks losing valuable livestock, and losing livestock means losing food and income. Every repair has consequence. You also begin to notice how early darkness influences mood. People work efficiently because daylight cannot be extended. There is urgency in ordinary tasks. Delay wastes opportunity, and wasted opportunity threatens winter survival. As evening approaches, the town slowly withdraws indoors. The market quiets, doors close, and only the occasional voice echoes down the lane. Inside the house, the fire becomes the center of attention again. The light it provides is gentle and limited. Beyond its glow, the room disappears into shadow. Supper is modest: bread, broth, and perhaps a little preserved meat. Yet it is shared, and sharing matters. Meals reinforce bonds within the household. Cooperation is essential because individuals cannot easily survive alone here. When night finally settles and you lie back again beneath the wool blanket, you feel not fear but fatigue, layered deeply through your body and mind. Tudor England has not harmed you directly, yet it has demanded constant effort, constant awareness, and constant participation in a tightly structured world. And as the last embers dim and the bell in the distance marks the late hour, you understand that surviving here is not about a single dangerous moment, but about enduring a complete system of life. A system where comfort is rare, independence is limited, and every day requires strength simply to meet the expectations of another morning in Tudor England. The final morning begins almost quietly, as if the town itself is tired. A pale light stretches slowly over the rooftops, and for a moment the streets are still. Then, one by one, doors open again. The same sounds return: a bucket lowered into a well, a latch lifted, a distant animal calling from a yard. Tudor life never truly pauses. It rests only long enough to begin again. You now recognize every motion. Someone kneels at the hearth to revive the fire. Someone carries water before eating. Someone checks animals before speaking much at all. The order of actions matters because survival depends on routine. You realize the people here do not question these habits. They follow them because generations before them followed them too. You step outside once more, and the morning air feels sharper than before. The cold, the smoke, the damp ground beneath your feet, none of it has changed. What has changed is your understanding. At first, you expected danger to be obvious. You imagined swords, prisons, and sudden violence. But Tudor England defeats you in a quieter way. It overwhelms you through constancy. Every part of the day asks something from you. Carry this. Repair that. Watch your words. Respect rank. Attend church. Prepare food. Protect supplies. Plan for winter. Repeat. No hour exists where nothing is required. Even resting requires awareness of the fire, the animals, the weather, and tomorrow's needs. You walk slowly through the town one last time. A baker pulls bread from the oven while steam rises into the cold air. A blacksmith strikes metal in steady rhythm, sparks fading quickly in daylight. Children run errands, already trusted with responsibility far earlier than modern childhood would allow. An older woman mends clothing beside a doorway, repairing fabric that will be worn again and again because replacement is too costly. Nobody here is lazy. Nobody can afford to be. Comfort is not an expectation, it is an occasional reward. And yet, you notice something else. They are not miserable. They laugh sometimes. They greet one another warmly. They help neighbors lift heavy loads without being asked. Hardship here is shared, and sharing softens it. By midday, the church bell rings again and people pause instinctively. The sound settles over fields and rooftops alike, connecting everyone within hearing distance. In a world without clocks, without screens, without distant distraction, this sound organizes existence. Life here moves together. As afternoon fades, you realize why you would not last a day in Tudor England. It is not because the people were weaker or life was crueler in a dramatic way. It is because the modern world removed thousands of burdens you no longer notice. Clean water, warmth at the press of a switch, private space, immediate medical help, and the freedom to rest when tired. These are invisible protections. Without them, even ordinary hours feel immense. Evening arrives again, the final one you will experience here. The hearth glows softly. Supper is eaten slowly and conversation is gentle, carried by firelight rather than electricity. Shadows move along the timber beams overhead. Outside, darkness gathers quickly, swallowing the narrow lanes and leaving only faint lantern light in distant windows. You lie down once more on the straw bedding. Your body aches, your hands feel worn, and your mind is heavy from constant attention. Yet the town outside settles peacefully, as it has for generations. Tomorrow these people will wake again before sunrise, repeat the same tasks, and continue lives built on endurance and cooperation. And as the last embers dim into faint red glow, you finally understand. Surviving Tudor England required a strength that was quiet, patient, and lifelong. Not heroic in stories, but heroic in repetition. The ability to endure discomfort every day and still greet the morning. If this journey helped you drift into another world for a while, let the calm of it stay with you. And when you return to your own warm room, your clean water, and your silent night, you may notice comforts that once felt ordinary now feel extraordinary. Sleep peacefully, and when you wake in the modern world, you'll know exactly why lasting even a single day in Tudor Britain would have been far harder than you ever imagined.